Hi, welcome to Charlotte's Cooking Show. I'm Charlotte. Today we have a birthday in the house. It's our son Tom's 18th birthday. And of course, when it's your birthday, you get to choose what you have for your birthday dinner. Tonight we're making a huge fan favorite, I'm sure you love it too, IKEA Swedish meatballs. This is the cheater recipe. Let's get to it. Everyone loves IKEA Swedish meatballs. That gravy is so tasty. We're gonna make a really creamy mashed potatoes. We're gonna serve it with some fresh green broccoli, and traditionally it's served with lingonberry sauce, but we don't have that. We just have whole cranberry sauce. So I've picked that up, and that just adds a delicious kind of little tart flavor to add to the taste of it all when it comes together. But before we get started, we gotta take off rings, jewelry, because we gotta get our hands into this. One of the little tricks to making these meatballs so tasty, so delicious, moist in that gravy, is we're gonna use this beautiful white fluffy bread. I'm gonna dice it all up, and then we're going to soak it in this bowl with some cream. And we'll let that bread soak in that milk, and then we're gonna add that bread mixture to the pork, and ground beef. So the recipe calls for 300 grams of pork, 300 grams of ground beef. Of course, I triple everything around here, guilty. And so I'm going to use 6 slices of bread, and I've got 900 grams of pork and ground beef. So we're going to get to it. I'm going to cut off the sides of the bread, and we're just gonna dice them up and add some milk to them, or the cream. We've got our cream soaked bread pieces here all ready to go. I've got some pork, ground beef. I'm going to add 3 eggs because I've tripled this recipe, so it's 1 egg usually, but 3 eggs. So I've got about a tablespoon of salt there, 3/4 of a teaspoon of freshly ground pepper, and I'm going to put in just a little bit under a teaspoon, 3/4 of a teaspoon of allspice, or sorry, nutmeg, and then the allspice here, 3/4 of a teaspoon of that. And then that will give it a really interesting taste. So this is a little weird. Sometimes people like to wear gloves when they do this job, when you make meatballs. But it's a great idea just to kind of get in there and make sure all the spices and the eggs and the breadcrumbs are all kind of mixed in together, and it'll make for really great meatballs. We've got our meatballs all done. I've got my oil nice and hot in my big pot back there. It's time to go put these in that and cook the outsides. We're not gonna cook them completely through. We just wanna really get the outside seared, and we want that beautiful brown flavor to sit on the bottom of the frying pan, because that's what we're gonna make our gravy with. So let's go fry up these meatballs. Obviously, a big family of 7 needs this many meatballs. So when you make your meatballs, you should make them a little bit bigger than you think you should, because of course, as the meat cooks, it shrinks down and it's a little smaller. So if you think these meatballs are too large, they're not, they're perfect. So making meatballs at home is a major labor of love, but it's really worth it. You can see they look so good, but this is really what we're looking for. It's the awesome brown stuff at the bottom. I'm going to add a 1/4 cup of butter, and then we're going to whisk in some flour and some beef stock. All right, so I've got some flour in there already, and a couple more tablespoons. This is gonna make beautiful thick gravy, and then we're gonna add in this whole thing of beef stock and some heavy cream, and it's gonna be so good. So I tasted the gravy, it's not seasoned well enough. So I'm going to my Better Than Bouillon beef stock flavor, and I'm just gonna take a tablespoon of that and mix that in, and that'll help. All right, so as the gravy thickens up and heats up here, we are going to add our meatballs all back into the sauce. And these meatballs are probably about, I'm gonna say 80% cooked, so they still need some time, some cooking time. Any of the juices that are on the plate, we're gonna put those back in as well because that adds really good flavor. And we're just gonna let this thicken and cook, and these meatballs are going to take on the gravy and be juicy and so good. So our meatballs have been sitting in this beautiful gravy for a while now. The gravy's thickened up. What I'm going to do is I'm going to add about a half a cup of, I'm gonna put 10% cream. If you wanna put heavier cream in, you can. This just kind of completes it, gives it that sort of, well, first of all, that creamy look. And then, but it also, the flavor from the cream is really delicious. I'm going to also add in some fresh parsley that I've chopped up. I'll leave some for garnish on top as well, but I'm just gonna put this in. And of course, green parsley just gives everything such a beautiful look. I've got some whipped mashed potatoes ready, which is of course the only thing you should eat with this. And I've got some steamed broccoli. So when plating this meal, always a great idea. You've got your potatoes there. You wanna have a good, healthy bit of your meatballs, of course. I would say at least 4 or so, maybe even a 5th. It is his birthday. And then of course we've got some steamed broccoli here, and we are just going to place that on the plate. He loves broccoli. And then finally, to finish off, we've got some beautiful whole cranberry sauce here. It's not lingonberry sauce like IKEA for real, but it's pretty close and it's pretty tasty. And you can just put that right there onto the gravy, onto the potatoes, onto the meatballs, and there we go. We've got our IKEA cheater Swedish meatball meal for Tom Pierce's 18th birthday. So let's have a bite. Make sure the birthday boy likes it. All right. So you're gonna get a little bit of that, a little bit of the potato, a little bit of the cranberry sauce. So good. Happy birthday, Tom. Dinner's ready.